What you're seeing is AudioLink, which is a system for VRChat, which in real time, in certain worlds that support it, it will sync the music that's playing with your avatar, and the visual effects for this can actually be customized to a huge extent. Now, this is a more advanced tutorial. I'm going to be going into code and editing it just a little bit. There's going to be a node editor. If you want a much simpler way to do AudioLink and you're new to AudioLink, look in the description for the Poyomi tutorial. It's a lot quicker and easier. But for now, we're going to do this, and I'm going to show you how to get to that step. First, you're going to have to download ShaderForge is the node-based editor you're going to use. And to download that, you click code and download zip, click keep, and then you're going to extract that by dragging it into your downloads folder. And this is a little easier. The link is to here. There's the releases on the right. You click that, you go to AudioLink minimal.unity package, keep, you click that, it'll import into Unity. I've already done it. And don't worry about that. That's because I already did this. So you have AudioLink in here. It'll show up down in the packages under AudioLink. You might have to expand that. And ShaderForge master, you go into this in your downloads, go into the ShaderForge folder, assets folder, and this is the folder you want to bring. You can just drag it into your assets folder, and I've already done that. And then we have ShaderForge, we have AudioLink ready. So I'm going to go to my avatar folder, and I'm going to create that shader you were seeing earlier from scratch using, to start with, using just the default Unity settings. Once I've created a shader, I'm going to rename it Blinko. When you have it the shader selected, over here in the inspector panel, if you have ShaderForge installed, you'll see this replace with ShaderForge shader. And we're going to say yes, it's going to clear everything and create a brand new shader. So this is the ShaderForge editor, and this is the output. This is what you end up seeing. And this hooks up to the color. This hooks up to the lights blinking. There's a lot of other stuff you can play around with, but we're going to stick to just these two for now. So if you right-click, you can add a node, and the properties are the settings you can set in the material settings. You're generating those now. So I'm creating a texture setting, and I'm going to hook it up. The RGB is the colors that come out of it. I'm going to hook that up to the diffuse so that the color of the object, right now it's blank because there's no texture, but the color of the object is set by this. And I'm going to give it a name, main text. I believe if you name it this exact name, it should work with the fallback system if people block your shaders a little bit better. They still don't see the audio link, but there we go. We've got a texture set up. We click compile. We've got a brand new custom shader. But we want to add audio link to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another texture 2D, and this is going to be the emission. Emission is things that light up on your avatar, essentially, things that glow even when there's no light on them. And they can also create bloom and effects like that if they're bright enough. So I'm going to hook this up to emission, just as an example, and select. I've made some textures for my character. I've got a diffuse texture, which is just the base color, the emission. And that's what it's going to look when it's all lit up. But we only want it to light up when certain parts of the music are playing. So I'm going to unhook this so it's simpler. I've forgotten how to unhook it. But Uh-oh. Alt right click. There we go. That unhooks it. I'm going to play around with all these values. This is going to give us basically a number between 0 and 1 for each pixel. But only for the reds of the picture. You see I've got a bunch of different colors in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a... Oh no, not properties. I want to go to constant vectors and add a value node. This is just going to be a plain old number that we're sticking in, and we're going to eventually replace this with audio link variables. But that's after we edit the code, unfortunately. We can't do it in this node editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to arithmetic, and there's all kinds of things to play with. I'm going to just use multiply. And just so you know, on any of these, you can right-click and say, what does multiply do? And it goes to the documentation, and it tells you exactly what it does with examples. You can look through this sometime and get a lot of inspiration for the shaders you can make, because it's almost infinite possibilities when you start making your own shaders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the red by 0 in this case. But this is going to change from 0 to 1 depending on how loud that part of the music is. So 0 in shader language is black, and 1 would be white, or in this case red, because it's only the red channel. So no matter what it is, if there's no music playing, it gets multiplied by 0 and is black. Emission, when emission is black, it's not visible. When it's anything but black, it becomes visible. So the brighter it is in this system, the brighter it will appear glowing. So I'm going to do this a few more times because there's 4 different bands, and that is the range of pitch in the audio that the audio is split into. So you can set up your effects to each of these. So this will be the lowest, I'm going to say, and this is the next lowest.
Package CardboardBox package said my ass hurts.
Okay. I'm going to quit out of Discord for a moment. Anyway, this is going to be the bass, this is going to be the lower mids, this is going to be upper mids. This is treble. That's purely arbitrary. I'm just deciding for organization. I'm going to keep that in mind. But I've got to mix all these together. I've used Control-D to duplicate them, so I have a bunch to work with. But I want to put the green into the lower mids, blue into the upper mids, and, well, I don't really have... The alpha channel is the transparency, and I didn't set up any transparency. So I'm going to do a different effect with a treble, because that's the highest notes, and they're usually, like, really impactful in the song, like a snare, when the snare hits. So when that happens, I want all the colors to light up. So I've got that, and let me just rearrange this. That's easier to see. No, that's gonna be a mess. Okay. It's gonna be a mess whatever I do. So let's just try and trace from where things go and do our best. So what we have now is red, green, and blue, and then everything. So you see that there's 3 lines. That means there's 3 channels involved here. So there's 3 channels coming out, but there's only 1 coming out of each of these. We're going to right-click, go to Vector Operations, and Append. So Append puts 2 channels together. So the red and green are now together. You'll see there's 2 coming out of there, but we want 3, so we make another append. Oops. I want to append this, the 2, to the 3rd, and now we have 3 coming out. So we have 3 coming out of there, 3 coming out of there, and we can mix these in any way we want. You got to think about it mathematically. Let me put a 1 on these. just going to type in 1 into these just as an example, and you can see what happens to it. You can see that just the blue is coming through here from this texture, but everything's coming through here. It's not recoloring it, it's just literally taking only the blues out of this. But I want to mix that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it together so it's even brighter. Not only will they add together and not darken, but they're going to become brighter. So that's under arithmetic, add. I'm going to add the 3 and the 3 together. So now, in this example, let's say the snare hits while something in the upper mids is playing, but these aren't, the lower notes are not playing at that moment in the song. You'd see that the whole thing lights up, and then the blue lights up twice as bright. Kind of hard to see here, but let's hook up the emission again. And you see, kind of hard to see, but the blue is twice as bright, and that'll affect bloom. That'll have some interesting effects. The bloom will sort of look blue if it ends up right. It depends on the world settings, but let's look at this, and I'm going to say this is pretty much what I want my shader to be, because once we start editing it, we can't get it back into this. Once we start editing it in a text editor, editing the code, we can't get back to the node editor, unfortunately. That's a limitation. There is a better system for this. It costs like $80, but I decided to figure out how to do it this way. The plugin Amplify, I know it's supposed to be compatible. I haven't used it. It's supposed to be compatible with AudioLink. There's a system for connecting the two. So you wouldn't have to do these code changes we're about to do, but here we go. We're going to do things the free way. One thing I noticed doing this, it was kind of hard to tell which one of these zeros was the zero we want. So I'm just going to put in some arbitrary numbers. Don't worry about it being super bright, but unless you wanted an effect like that, I mean, you can definitely think up things like this. Any kind of mistake can be inspiration. But this is just going to be something we remember for later. 11 is base, 22 is the next one, 33 the next one, 44 the next one. We're going to remember that for later when we substitute. Then we can just find and replace these numbers with some code. So let's be done with ShaderForge. Click Compile Shader and close that out. Now we're going to get to actually editing the shader, but first we have to copy something over from AudioLink. It's basically the support file that gives everything it needs to run. It's in the AudioLink folder under Runtime, under Shaders, and it's just called AudioLink. And I'm going to duplicate it and drag it into the same folder that my shader is in, which it's in this avatar folder up here. And you have to rename it because duplicating it changed the name. So I'm removing the space and the 1 from the end. So it just says AudioLink. It should say exactly that. And now we can edit the shader to load this. We have to do that manually. And normally you'd click Open Shader Code. That's been crashing when I click that. So instead I'm going to edit it at Notepad. Should be fine. Right click, show an explorer, and instead of this viewer, it's all the same stuff. This is just the way it looks in your folders. You can ignore the meta files. It's just blinko.shader or whatever you've named it, the .shader file. So I'm going to right click and open with Notepad. And there we go. This is the shader. I'm going to open the shader on the left. I've got this notepad on the right. This will be in the description, what you're seeing on the right. On the left, that's your shader. You can learn how to actually program these. You can write these yourselves if you want. It's a lot of math and programming. It can be fun. I tend to stick to the node-based editor, though. But we do have to manually edit these 2 changes. Well, it'll be 3 changes. First, we're going to copy paste this. So this include goes with the other includes. You see it says the same thing here. I'm going to go to the end of there, press enter to make a new line, and paste that in. And you can, it's not necessary, but you can press tab. In Notepad, it's not going to look great, but since it's on its own line, it'll work. It's in there, it'll work. And we're going to scroll down, and we're looking for the frag. It says frag. The first place it says frag. And that's a function. Inside this function, which is inside this bracket, we're going to do the rest of what we're doing. It goes from here to here. So what we're going to do is copy all these 4 lines all the way and put them in right after this bracket where it says frag. New line, paste. Now, these are variables. So this is the number that goes from 0 to 1 that changes whenever the bass of the music that's playing changes. So I'm going to copy that, and remember I put the 11, let me expand this a little. I put the 11, 22, 33, 44, that was in order, so this was the base. So including the 0.0, you're going to select the whole number you had and paste in AL base. So now this number will be inserted into that part of the formula, which this, by the way, this is all the stuff we did earlier. It's just in code form. So we're just gonna substitute each of those 4 numbers with these 4 in order. Yours might not be in order. It might be, these numbers might be scattered around in this general area, but if you make them unique numbers, you should be able to find them. That's just the only trick I know of that's actually easy to do this. But speaking of easy, we've just finished those 3 changes, adding this in, adding this in, and changing those numbers, replacing them with these variables. That's all done now. We click File, Save, and go back to Unity, assuming that you have this file in the same folder as the shader. It should be a working shader. Something I forgot to do, you can do this in ShaderForge. I'm going to do it here. You can give it a name, shader custom / I'm going to call it Blinko shader, or just Blinko. And save, go back to Unity. Okay, so I see there's no errors. If there's errors, it'll you can click on it and it'll show you where the error is. And good luck with that, because that can get complicated. If you have that issue, you might want to just start over from when you started editing. You can just undo and try that copy paste step again. But we don't have errors, so we can load this material up with this shader. The material is what goes on the avatar, and it has a shader. Every material has a shader. It starts out with standard. I can go into custom and find Blinko, the one I made. So that's got, I already loaded the textures on. You could do that by dragging them on. Now we've got it. Last step is to add this. I'll show you how to add it. I'm going to delete it so I can show you. Under packages, audio link, runtime, there's a few things here. It's the one called AudioLink avatar. And you're going to drag it into your scene. And then you're going to click on AudioLink input, and we have to put a song here. You can't drag it right here. You got to drag it here first. So in my download somewhere, I've got a Kevin MacLeod song that I was playing earlier. I'm going to drag it into my project. Then I can drag it into this audio link input. Now, if we hit play, everything should just work. When it's off in the distance, I'm going to switch back to the scene so I can zoom in. And there it is. You can turn up the volume. It turns off by default. But there we are. We've made the shader. It's ready to upload. If your avatar is ready to upload, you have to grab the descriptor and stuff like that. And this is the shader that's on there, so when you go in the world, this is what's going to happen. You can do any kind of effect